Welcome back, folks. Fans of the Black Eagle podcast, haters as well, all are welcome. We are back with episode 14. We're going into the double digits. We're thoroughly into the double digits now. And today, we're kind of going back to the classic format. We've got the original team back behind the decks here. So I, myself, Sinan Sporting, am, as always, live from New York City. And of course, Kaan Bayazit, ladies and gentlemen. Applause. Cue the applause. How are you doing, Kaan?
I have totally just muted myself. What happened with the pause there? Bayazit.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. That's all good. All good here, man. I mean, we just come off a good scoreline. So nothing to complain about on that part, I guess. You also mentioned the haters all the time. Like, have you gotten hate yet? I mean, I haven't actually. I'm still waiting for that. I think once we grow our audience even more, then we'll start getting in those haters. But for now, we only have people that appreciate it. Hopefully.
But like any true competitor, I thrive on the hate, Kaan. So I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for him, man. I'm ready. I'm getting prepared. Psyching myself up. I'm like my own hype man. But yes, it is indeed a good day. Yeah, and it's a vital point to mention that we are having a good day in the Beşiktaş nation, so to speak. We've just come off in real time now, so we're taking off the fourth wall, whatever you call it. We've just come off a resounding 6-0 victory over B36 Tórshavn in the Europa League, sending us through to the next round. And I suppose let's jump right in, eh?
Sure, let's do that. One of the things I think is always important when you have a big victory like this, a question I would like to ask you is, do you at all feel that it was a flattering 6-0, that it was an exaggerated scoreline, or did you feel more like, 6, could have been 7, could have been 8, could have been 9, could have been 10? What's your feeling generally of this match?
I like this whole round, personally. I like that our first match was in the Faroe Islands, that we are a little more sort of cautious, but even in a sense respectful. We gave our competition the ability to go home and say, hey, we played them pretty well in our home field or whatever, like we didn't swamp them as we probably could have. But then at the same time, we used the second leg, our home match, to kind of rile up the crowd, run up the score a little. I don't think there were too many opportunities that we didn't capitalize on. Ultimately, of course, there were some. There's always going to be some. But all in all, I joked earlier, and not to diminish the competition, because again, they held their own against the side that was in the last 16 of the Champions League last season. But nonetheless, I'd say this was a perfect end to our preseason. The nature of these matches was kind of friendly, they seemed to go in with the feeling that they weren't going to come out with a victory anyway, to some extent. Their coach seemed resigned to it in his pregame comments, but still, 6-0, 8-0 total on aggregate. That's something for us to hang our hats on, I think, going into the next round and going into the season.
It's Beşiktaş's biggest European victory in their history. Yeah. So some more history book credits going to Şenol Güneş. He's written a lot of European history in the last 2 years. I guess this. This is his fourth season. Beşiktaş's first season wasn't a massive success. I think it wasn't the worst campaign we had in the Europa League, but the subsequent 2 runs were very good, and especially last year, of course, with shattering one after another record, not just the club records, but also Turkish records in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, I fully agree with you. I think we kind of went there. We got the job done in the second half. We held back. I think we did show respect And it was more of a, we know we got it in the bag already. We don't have to embarrass them in front of their home fans,
right?
Because I think we could have easily increased that to a 5 or 6 as well had we kept pushing the way we had been pushing in the first half. But here at halftime, I think immediately you kind of noticed he took Fatih Aksoy off, he put Oğuzhan on.
Yeah.
That was definitely not definitely not a resting on your laurels kind of substitution.
For sure. No, it was a signal of intent, right? As they say.
That's how I interpreted it, at least. So 6-0, good win. But, of course, we have to keep our feet on the ground. This is a semi-professional team, with all due respect for B36 Tórshavn. Most of those players are, like I spoke to Trenter about, most of them have a day job. So, yeah, you have to take this. You don't have to, think this is a massive statement or anything. It's a good thing for the confidence of our players. And I personally, the most important thing I take away from these 2 games is that we have a confident Jermaine Lens heading into the season, and hopefully he will sustain that confidence.
And additionally, again, bearing in mind the competition, Kyle Larin finally kind of broke through, maybe just in time, in terms of his confidence, because so much of the scorer's ability to put the ball in the back of the net is mental, is that confidence that you need. So I think that's, for me, perhaps this match in particular, that in the preseason at large, I would actually agree that Lens that's the big takeaway, that he's sort of clearly ready for this season. But in today's match in particular, I'm going to sort of tip my cap to Kyle Larin, and that hat trick he put away, didn't leave too much on the table, and hopefully he can bring that form into the season, since we still don't have a replacement for him.
So your man of the match pick for today is Kyle Larin?
No. My man of the match is Lens. I'd say Lens had the best match for sure. He looked hungry and precise, like he was a shark out there. He smelled blood. But my big takeaway as far as what the impact of this match has for us going forward is that that's very vital for Larin to have. I think that confidence that he gained today, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we still don't have that striker that we're supposedly getting this transfer window. So we're going to head into the season with Kyle Larin as our starter. That's for sure at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter who comes in tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Kyle Larin will be starting that first league game, and Kyle Larin will be starting against LASK or LASK or whatever.
For sure.
In the Europa League. The next couple of games, Larin will start regardless of who comes.
Yeah.
If someone comes, of course.
Because Şenol Güneş is notoriously slow to bring new additions into the team, right? I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, I think he has a habit. I think it's relative, though.
Sure.
I think if it's a player that he really insisted on and he wanted really badly himself, then it's probably a little bit different. So I could see, with a Mario Gomez or a Vincent Aboubakar, someone he knows and trusts already.
Yeah.
I think those type of players,
with a proven track record too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they could come into the team quicker if they're fit. If he knows, these guys have had a preseason already at their previous club and they're ready to go, I think those guys could be slotted in quicker. But I think if it's going to be somebody completely new, it's going to take a couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, like you said, very important for Kyle Larin to tank some confidence. But for me, also, Jermaine Lens, man of the match as well last week, in my opinion. And,
yeah, his goal was a stunner last week. I mean, sorry to interrupt.
That was a good goal. Janner Erkin got 2 assists today. Larin got 3 goals. So then statistically, people could go, Larin got 3 goals. Janner also got 2 assists. But I think it's most importantly as well, something I took away from an interview with Trenter as well, is that first half, those guys, they were still full of energy. Second half that diminished, so I think that's also kind of why we expanded on the scoreline a little bit more easily. So I think that the performance in the first half of Lens is more telling than the second half performances of other players against a tired opposition that aren't used to playing at this level. So definitely for me, Lens. And I mean, if you look at all the goals and you look at the first assist, that Lens assist, that back heel, that's a special something. The rest of our goals were just, those are basic goals, but that back heel was pretty special to me. I think it's a good confidence boost this game. But we definitely will have our work cut out for us in the next 2 qualifying games, because these Austrians aren't messing around, man.
Yeah, well, and before we talk about that real briefly, I mean, it's probably worth noting, since we just talked about the clear quality of Lens, there's going to be a bit of a log jam on the wings, it looks like, because Lens is in good form. Babel's had a fairly good preseason. Quaresma hasn't even appeared yet because of his World Cup break. And then as well, of course, the sort of renaissance of Gökhan Töre, or at least that's what everyone's hoping for. So, that's worth keeping an eye on going forward, right?
I hope that the best players will play and not just the favorites. Because I think if the best guys are going to be playing, then Babel could be in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was particularly bad in either of these games, but I also didn't think that he, given the relative strength of the opponent, I didn't think that he impressed either. I think he could have definitely scored a couple of goals had he been a little bit sharper, maybe. Although I don't really agree with the premise of that he was terrible, which some people seem to
stick to,
have that opinion, which I definitely don't agree with. But it's a little bit of, I don't think he was great. I don't think he was poor. But Jermaine Lens, to me, definitely the man of these 2 matches. And it's something I had said going into those games, that this was his last chance. He had to shine here. Yeah. He had to convince the coach. And if he didn't, he'd probably be out on his ass. But now he has a really good chance heading into this new season. And I think if he gets dropped to the bench next week or something, then there's no more excuse for that. I think then that's down to the coach. Then you can't blame Lens for failing. Then it's just the fact that the coach clearly prefers other people. Let's hope that's not the case, and let's hope he gets a fair chance, because I think given a good, confident Lens is a great player. We saw that at Fenerbahce, and I think we saw glimpses of that for sure in these 2 games, what he's capable of, and that Lens can contribute to any team, I think.
And so on that note, I would actually agree that I think going forward, it's likely we'll see Lens and Babel, but as soon as Quaresma is match fit again, I would be willing to, by merit, I think it should be Lens and Quaresma, perhaps.
At this point,
unless Quaresma becomes the super sub that he'll sort of inevitably become given his age at some point, but we'll see. Agreed?
Yes. Sorry. Didn't think that needed an agreeing.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, it's fairly clear, right? But anyway, but you had just, before we sort of diverted there, you'd alluded to the fact that our next competition is likely to be LASK Linz, or Lask Linz. In fact, not our next competition, because I'm pretty sure that is gonna be...
No. We play them on Thursday, and then I think we play Akhisar in the opener.
Akhisar.
In the league.
Oh, so you mean we're playing Linz? So, Linz is actually next week.
Linz is on the 9th, I believe.
Oh, great. I was gonna miss football for that, extra half a week or whatever it was. I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
I think it's on the 9th. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it's the 9th of August. So next week, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just quickly check the calendar here.
That would make sense.
Yep. That's next week.
Well, that's great news, because I feel like that gives us the chance to bring the form that we've just developed now forward into that match, rather than maybe losing it against Akhisar in our first match of the season, which I think that competition is probably stronger than Linz, I would guess.
I don't know. I really don't know. I watched Sturm Graz against Ajax the other day in the Champions League playoffs, and Sturm Graz definitely did not impress me. But then when I didn't watch any of this. I haven't watched their games against Lillestrøm, but if I see their scoreline in the home game and then going out there and winning, that's, I don't think that's something to downplay. I think that's yeah, for sure. That's what I was looking for. But no, it definitely isn't, I think. So we shouldn't take them lightly. It could be very tricky for us, especially given the fact that, we did play these two games with Najib and Fatih at the back. So our back line definitely isn't complete yet. So, if this game would come in a couple of weeks and we were at full strength, then I wouldn't really have any fear for this side. Heading into it, which is complete arrogance, of course, of mine, because I don't know this team at all. So I'll definitely get to know it a little bit more over the coming week. Hopefully, having a chat with an expert on the side from the Austrian media. But for now, I'm completely ignorant on whatever that team is concerned. So then my feeling would be, if this match came in 2 or 3 weeks when we're at full strength, hopefully, then I wouldn't have any problems. I wouldn't have any fears. But now I wouldn't take them too lightly. I think they could upset us if we're not careful, especially.
Let's hope this isn't our Ostersunds, right? Is it?
Indeed, let's hope it's not.
Yikes. Their known quantity, as far as I recall, is Pogatetz. Is that right?
I don't know.
I think he's. I think it was Badish, actually, our resident shirt expert, who tipped me on that Pogatetz is their captain. I would assume he's fairly old. But anyway, I think neither one of us can claim to be an expert on Linz or Austrian football. I'm excited to hear about the guest that you've procured, whose name is, I just wrote this down, Bernhard Kastler from Laola One. I think that's a prominent Austrian
media outlet, yeah.
Is that correct? Outlet. But so let's look forward to that and get more. Let's wait before we can consider ourselves informed enough. Let's get informed, right?
For sure, yeah. I don't want to be saying anything stupid on here. not anymore.
I'm sure we do anyway. Right, exactly. So let's keep it moving. Next up on the docket, we actually got a couple mini guests here. Not an interview to speak of, but we thought we'd change it up this week in a different format, since we've been interviewing heavily in these last few episodes. Let me hand it over to you, Kaan. You should introduce these guys, because you've got all the contacts in the journalism world. Set us up. So we've got 2 definitive transfers into the squad. Actually 4 if you include Guven Yalchin and
Dorokan
Tokuz, yeah. Who I actually quite like. But we got some experts on Umut Nayir, because he's somewhat of a mystery, I think, to most of us, and Enzo Roco, who is by now much less of a mystery, but still merits us learning about. Run us off, Kaan. Tell us about these guys and what we need to know.
Okay, well, first up is Tom Marshall, and he's an English journalist that lives in Guadalajara, I believe. And he covers the Mexican League, the Liga MX, and he also covers the Mexican national team. He's a pretty famous journalist, and he was kind enough to send us some sound bites on Enzo Roco's performances for Cruz Azul in Mexico. He did have to say that he didn't really watch him all that much. Take what he says and
yeah, with a grain of salt.
No,
perhaps
not really with a grain of salt, but he didn't like watch him super closely or anything like that. So
I mean, it's hard to with a central defender. You know, it's easy.
It is.
It's so much more easy to pay attention to what's happening with who's on the ball in those scenarios.
When it comes to central defenders, if you really want to evaluate someone, you really have to watch them really closely, because there's so many little nuances that if you aren't particularly paying attention to that specific player, you're going to miss those. And it's very difficult to make a proper assessment of a central defender, I think, unless you like really closely follow him. So Tom here gives some nice insights on Enzo, and
Yeah, I'll cue him in.
Enzo Roco did pretty well in Liga MX. I mean, obviously he came in from the Spanish league, so I think a lot was expected, but at the same time, he was also a young centre-back. I think it's worth pointing out as well that he did sign for one of the big four clubs. There's a lot of pressure at Cruz Azul. And, he established himself, and I think he did, 7 out of 10, 6.5 maybe. I think he did pretty well. I wouldn't say he was absolutely outstanding, but he did a decent job. And it was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest, that Cruz Azul wanted to get rid of him and put him on the transfer list at the end of last season. Rocco's he's a decent all-round defender. I think especially in the air he's good, and for his size he's not bad. Kind of playing out from the back as well, which is really essential, especially in a league like Mexico's. I'd say that in terms of weaknesses, he's not the quickest. So, I think it depends what kind of team he's going to be going into in Beşiktaş. I mean, if it's a team that is going to play really high line and he's going to have to be chasing back, then, he might struggle. But obviously, if not, then I think he's a good all-round defender. And I think in terms of his age, 25, nearly 26, he's already got experience in the bag in Europe, in Spain. He's come over to Mexico and been a regular there. And I think it's a good move to him. I don't think he's an absolute exceptional talent, but I think he's a very good defender, and I think he's going to do quite well. I think it's worth, obviously, Gary Medel is there as well, and Rocco's just coming into the Chilean national team now, so I don't know, having someone that he already knows around, I think will help him a lot. And yeah, I think he'll do well in Turkey, to be honest. I think he gave a good account for himself in Mexico. I think that he was a young defender, or a youngish defender, who was kind of one of the better in the league, that potentially could go on to become a national team regular with Chile, which I'm sure this movie is going to actually help him with that. And Cruz Azul fans, to be honest, I don't think they were particularly sad. But I think that's mainly because they've signed Igor Lichnowsky, who's also Chilean. For some reason, Pedro Caixinha, the Cruz Azul manager, seemed to prefer Lichnowsky and Pablo Aguilar, who's also signed for Cruz Azul this summer. So Cruz Azul basically bought in 2 new centre-backs, and I think that kind of overshadowed the fact that Roco was actually leaving. So yeah, I mean, I think he's basically, like I said right at the start, he's done quite well in Mexico, and I'm sure he'll be keen now to move on and establish himself, properly in Europe. So I think he'll do well.
Great, very informative stuff. Thanks again to Tom Marshall. I suppose at the end of the episode, when we're giving our shout outs, we'll give you information on how to follow him and on Twitter and everything. But yeah, thanks again, Tom Marshall.
Let's put it in the info, and then people can just
in the info. Yeah.
In there. Okay, and then second up for Umut Nayir, my friend Nadim, who some of you may know also from Twitter, which is Ankaragucu-Iskocya is his Twitter name.
The famous. The infamous. No, I don't know.
So his real name is Nadim Raja, and he lives in Glasgow, I believe. He's a Glasgow Rangers fan, but he's also an Ankaragucu supporter. He's not Turkish at all or anything like that, but he has a passion for Ankaragucu, and he's been following the team for many years. And he watched pretty much every game of Ankaragucu over the past couple of years. Last year, fortunately for him, he was able to do so via, I think it was beIN Sports already that had the rights, and the year before, I think it was when they were still in the third league, or maybe that was like 2 years ago. He had to watch their games via Periscope, so that was terrible. So actually having to watch the games from people.
That's a real warrior there.
Stadium. Yeah, exactly. So he has some interesting insights on Umut Nayir. It's a player I also watched myself personally when he was playing for Gustep and Ankaragucu, so I definitely have a little bit more of input on him personally. But Q and Nadim, I'd say.
Q and Nadim, yeah.
So Umut Nayir to Beşiktaş. I have to say I'm a bit surprised at the move, and a bit disappointed as well. Surprised because personally at this stage I don't think it's the right move for Umut Nayir. I can understand the reasons why any young Turkish player, although I think he's about 25 now, I can still understand at this stage the lure of playing for a club the size of Beşiktaş and the opportunity of playing European football is difficult to turn down, especially when Umut Nayir for the bulk of his career is played with clubs that don't have a great structure, a lot of financial problems, especially at Ankaragucu. So there's times where the players don't get paid in time. So he's probably saw this opportunity to join a well-run club, knowing that his salary will be paid in time. And the big thing for him as well is he'll be able to develop playing with better coaches, because although Umut Nayir is 25, his footballing career is still young, because when he started with Ankaragucu, he was actually more of a part-time player as opposed to professional. And the reason for that was because he wanted to continue with his studies at university, so he wasn't training full time. He was basically at university while he was playing with Ankaragucu, and that's testament to him himself that he still performed at such a high level in League Two and also with Göztepe in League One. I thought when he played for Göztepe, when he helped him win promotion, when he was top scorer along with Adis Jalvic, that they would have kept hold of him and he would have played in the Super League, but he dropped back down into League One, and he had a great campaign last season for Ankaragucu. Probably could have scored more goals. He got 14 in 29, which is a goal every second game. The disappointment for us is because we believed that he was going to be our key striker this coming season, and he would have played an important part for us. He would have probably played every week at Ankaragucu with better supply round about him this time, because last season the creative side of Ankaragucu wasn't the best, even although they were playing in League One. We kind of struggled at times to create a lot of chances. So I think with the move to Beşiktaş, when he's got better players round about him, the more chances will be created, and he's a really good finisher. But as I said, the disappointment for us that we believed that we were going to sign him, and then at the last minute, obviously Beşiktaş have come in. Obviously Beşiktaş are seen as a bit of a kind of rival club to the Ankaragucu support as well. But look, I hope to see him doing well, because last season, even although it was I don't believe that he played to his best last season. He still had a good season, but I think he was capable of better. But his performances still attracted the attention of the national team scouts, and he was there was talk of him at one point being called up for the Turkish national team. So, as I said, he's still got potential. I think the key strengths for Umut Nayir is playing with his back to goal. He holds the ball up really well. He's a big, strong, powerful boy. He's actually got pretty decent technique for a big lad as well. Really strong in the air. Last season we had Erdem Özcenk and Mehmet Şak, who Erdem Özcenk had the highest amount of assists in League One, I believe, in Turkish football last season. So Umut Nayir benefited for that. A lot of crosses into the box, and Umut Nayir was on the end of that. He can also he's quite an unselfish player as well. So he can create chances for other players. And I think those are his main strengths. His weaknesses are that he lacks that really kind of top class pace and speed that kind of top players in European football tend to have. I would say that he's got great temperament as well. Quite a confident guy. Can be seen as a leader as well. Although going into a club like Beşiktaş, I think it'll be difficult for him to become a leader just with so many international players and big personalities within the squad as well. Other things that he could probably work on as well is his stamina, the stamina side of his game. Sometimes he looks a bit lethargic, but that could also be down to the way that he runs. He's got these big long strides. And at times he can look slow, but he still gets away from players with that, the kind of big long strides. And I heard you last night, obviously, kind of comparing, not directly comparing it to Cenk Tosun. I know that Cenk came to Beşiktaş in similar circumstances. He played well with kind of lower clubs, but Cenk, obviously, as you touched on as well, had proved himself in the Super League. Umut Nayir hasn't, but at the same time he's never had that opportunity. Look, I think for the compensation that you've paid £250,000, I would say that it's a gamble worth taking. He won't be your first choice striker, but with a year of development, with the coaching at Beşiktaş, and as I said, playing with better players around about him, having better supply, and it depends the way you guys want to play as well. If everything's going through the middle of the park and on the deck, like on the ground, you probably won't get the best out of him. So you'd need to look at mixing the play up a bit in terms of some high balls into the box. Maybe the goalkeeper, whoever your new goalkeeper is going to be, playing the long ball, and for him to Umut Nayir will win most aerial threats. And the thing is, he doesn't just head the ball on, he's actually really good at laying it off for other players. So you're going to need to have some runners from midfield that are willing to go up and support him as well. But no, look, I think for a backup striker, it's a decent signing, and we'll just need to wait and see how he does. But as I said, we wish him all the best. Just unfortunately, we wish he was playing next season in the blue and yellow colours of Ankaragucu instead of Beşiktaş.
All right. Round of applause for our guests. Thank you so much to Nadim and Tom for their input on our new guys. Before we move on to the rumour portion of our transfer section, is there anything you'd like to add, Kaan, R.E.?
Well,
these two.
For me, I think Umut Nayir especially, I think with Enzo Roco, we know what's up with that. He's a replacement for Mitrovic, for Tosic, for potentially Domagoj Vida. So he's probably going to be a starter. Umut Nayir, I've heard some criticism about this transfer, not so much because of the transfer in itself and the expenses and all that, because those are all really low. I mean, Umut Nayir will just be making 300,000 euros a year. We're paying 250,000 euros to Osmanlıspor in the form of a compensation because he terminated his contract with them, but they didn't necessarily agree with that termination. So in order for to avoid any legal ramifications, we just said, look here,
take some money.
We'll pay you 250 and let us have him.
Look the other way.
Exactly. But I even saw some pictures, I think, from Umut when he was younger, wearing Beşiktaş shirts. So
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
Looks like he's not just coming to Beşiktaş for the big money.
That's right.
Which he isn't getting.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And for me, he's the perfect third striker, I think.
It's a good flyer. Replacement for Pekdemek, you should.
Exactly. That's how I see him. Mustafa Pekdemek has an ending contract. They're trying to offload him already. That might not work, but at the end of the season, he's gone regardless. Of course, Wagner Love, Alvaro Negredo, who we'll talk on a little bit later. And there was also some talk of Wagner Love agreeing with the team. That's all stuff those guys might all be going, and Tekin might be going at the end of the season, but I can perfectly see Umut Nayir come in as a third option. Of course, we don't have those Turkish Cup games this season for him to show himself properly to Channel, but you never know. I mean, I've seen him play. I know what his qualities are. Of course, this is at the second tier of Turkish football, so we'll have to wait and see how that translates to Super League football. But you never know.
Fingers crossed.
Cenk Tosun initially came in as our third striker, and he worked his way up. Yeah. Of course, Cenk had that Super League track record and all that stuff, and he had that German national team track record, with the under 21s, under 19s, and stuff like that. So he has a little bit of a better pedigree, but I mean, it's not because somebody comes in as a third striker that's what they're eternally going to be. I'm not saying that Umut will be our next Cenk Tosun.
Or Ilhan Mansız.
You have to give him a chance. I mean, Ilhan came in when he was 24 or 25.
Exactly, yeah, that's why I meant, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, fingers crossed, guys. I mean, really, like you said, there's no way of knowing at this stage. He hasn't played at this level, and it could bring the best out of him. It may not. We'll wait and see. But I think we can all agree that, as a replacement for Mustafa Pektinmek, no one's too sad about the exchange in that regard, no matter what Umut Nayir produces for us. But let's move on. And I think actually you gave us a very good segue into the next topic. And let's, this is the part that probably most of our diehard followers and the haters, come on, are here for the most, which is the transfer rumor mill. And let's dig right into the strikers, because we're talking about Umut Nayir. We've already talked about Kyle Larin, who's clearly going into our season as a striker. And the very latest news, like as of today, the day of our recording, which is August 2nd.
I wasn't sure if you were asking me there.
August. No, I was checking myself. As of today, the latest news coming in is about Álvaro Negredo. And let me hand it off to you, Kaan, since I've been talking a bunch. What's the news?
Supposedly, there's an agreement with. Actually, I have to check my wording for a second there, because this all kind of came out when I was watching the game,
exactly.
So I didn't really pay attention to it 100%. Let me just quickly get that up here.
And I mean, meanwhile, I think it's probably worth noting that Wagner Love did appear for us in the Europa League, which would suggest that we're probably not going to be selling him within Europe to a team who's going to be competing at that level anyhow. But he appeared with a new number 99, which is, like, to me, felt like a throwaway number, and that could also suggest maybe he's cashing it in too. So, but we'll get to that.
Oh, I always like number 99 as kind of like that pinch hitter striker off the bench. I'm just trying to think. Weibo had that for years for Fenerbahce, I think. We had Dembaba wear it when he came back for his second little short stay.
Yeah.
But I've got it here, so I had to get my wording right here. So I was going to say Beşiktaş have agreed, but that's not actually the case. Beşiktaş have reached the final stages of their negotiations with Rayo Vallecano in España, Spain. Sorry, I won't do that again.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, I approve. I approve.
So Álvaro Negredo is a big chance that he'll be returning to Spain this coming season. Rayo Vallecano, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are located in Madrid. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe they are. And if I'm not mistaken, that's also Negredo's hometown, because I know he was part of Real Madrid's youth academy. He never actually played a senior match for them, I think, but he was part of their youth academy. So I think he might hail from there. So this is according to TRT Sports for Günayer. There was also some stuff earlier in the day regarding that there might be a breakthrough on that front. So he might be headed to Rayo Vallecano. I know we were talking about which Saudi team was it?
Al Hilal, I believe.
Al Hilal. I was going to say Al Ittihad for some reason, but it's Al Hilal. You're right. But supposedly, Negredo's family not too keen on that, to moving to Saudi
His wife in
Arabia, which is
particular,
understandable.
I've heard, which again, yeah, you can't.
It's understandable, I mean, and he just got a kid and all that stuff, so I get that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And in the midterm, there were rumors that he had like professed love for the city of Istanbul. Did you hear about that? He was gonna like take a
yes,
pay cut.
I saw that.
I don't know how credible it was, but
fanatic. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, really? I didn't realize.
That was the source. Yeah.
Like I had read it as a kind of like I would rather take a pay cut than go to Al Hilal. Kind of, like my wife rejected it. Let's come to an agreement. Like it didn't seem that unrealistic. Although, like, who's gonna take a pay cut willingly for no reason? That's stupid. Anyway, yeah.
But that's the thing I was wondering about. I mean, is Rayo Vallecano going to be able to offer him what he's earning at Beşiktaş? So, as far as Negredo is concerned, I want to see him sign on the dotted line before I'll profess that he's gone. And I mean, it's a shame that rumor was from Fanatic, because honestly, I mean, Negredo as a second striker taking a pay cut, he'd have to take a huge pay cut, but if he would, that'd be good, man. We talked about this last time, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Didn't we talk about how we would definitely take him as a second striker if he took a pay cut?
Exactly.
But that's not realistic. I mean, he's not going to half his wage.
For the love of Istanbul. he just loves Dunair,
yeah.
What are you gonna... But yeah,
he looked like that at the start of the preseason.
yeah, he did. But let's keep it moving. But stay within the realm of striker rumors.
Okay.
The other sort of quasi latest. Do you even want to address the Mandzukic stuff? Because like he was in the hotel on the Marmaris.
No.
I mean, let me put it this way: he stayed in a hotel in a very popular area of tourism like a very popular place for European people in general. That's not really newsworthy, even if it's true. So,
which I don't even know.
Yeah, right. Like, let's just leave it at that. So yeah, Mandzukic, guys. If that was like what your big dream was, keep dreaming. Moving right along.
Yeah. Plus, you need to keep in mind as well that Juventus just sold off Higuain to AC Milan, so I'm pretty sure they're going to be wanting to keep Mandzukic as their
big point.
Their striker in their pocket. I believe that Porto are looking at one of Juventus's younger players, Favelli, to replace an eventual, a potentially departing Vincent Aboubakar. So. I don't think that Mandzukic is going anywhere. I think he's sticking with Juventus still.
And before we even touch Aboubakar, let's pop another bubble. This whole Gomez stuff, guys, come on. Like, it'd be nice, but it's not very realistic.
Hey, don't rain on my parade, man.
Sorry, man. It is what it is, right? We'd all love to see it. Don't get me wrong. I love Mario Gomez and his contribution. Some people actually probably don't want to see it because they have a grudge for stupid reasons. Forget all that. Like, if we had the opportunity to get Gomez again, he'd likely be a 20-goal scorer in the league, and you'd all forget about your qualms, your issues very quickly. But it's really not like there's no good source on it. It's not likely. I think he's even quashed himself, possibly. I think I saw him. Do you have any thoughts on Gomez before we go into the?
I don't think I wouldn't rule that out. Actually, I think the biggest obstacle in this transfer is maybe Fikret Orman's ego a little bit. Like maybe his ego got hurt a little bit over what happened there, which I would understand. But I think that at this point, with Mario playing back for Stuttgart right now, I think that financially he's a more realistic target than Vincent Aboubakar is.
Huh. Yeah, given his age, for sure.
Despite his age, I still think, and this is important because of the way we play, if we get a good 10, if we get a Shinji Kagawa, for example, come to Beşiktaş Shinji, I think if you get a player like that, and then you get Mario Gomez, I think he's still perfectly capable of scoring 25 plus goals for us.
Oh yeah. Plus with our talent on the wings, which we were just talking about, right?
Exactly. So I wouldn't say no to him ever at this point. Maybe in 2 years I would, if he's like 35. But now at 33, that's kind of on the edge. I would also prefer to see us get a younger striker. But if financially it makes more sense to go for him, I'd say yes. Still, and of course, the rumors are kind of like that he would be more willing now to come back. I think he kind of realizes that he made a mistake, is what the rumors are saying. I don't know how much stock to put in that.
Well, my 2 cents is that if that's in any way true and he is in any way amenable to coming back, I've already swallowed my pride just thinking about it. Like, screw that. Yeah, come on home. Forget that. But
the only thing he has to do, and don't bleep this, but what he has to do when he comes back is, I made a fucking mistake. That's what he has to say.
I'm bleeping that. I'm sorry. We have young listeners, Kaan. That is not a response.
Do you remember his first interview with Beşiktaş TV? He said that. He said the F word. He dropped an F bomb.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to come. If he would come back, he just needs to do it again. Just say it, guy. Sorry, I made a mistake.
I'll tell you what. I will lift the beep rule if he drops an F-bomb. I will put the quote in here, and that will be the official unbanning of the F word. Anyway, moving on. Because speaking of a younger striker, of course, the other hot news, and the last hot news ticket as far as a striker goes, is the persistent. Gosh, I hope he's not like Ospina 5 years from now, where we're still talking about him like this. But of course, we have Aboubakar, who's now officially being sold. It looks like they asked for like 50 million at some point last week, and then Sevilla's coming in, and it looks like they're coming in with 20 million. So that's our competition at the moment, it would seem. Are we willing to spend 20 million euros on a striker? Kaan, I'm going to hand it over to you because I think you've got some words on that.
I wouldn't. I don't care who he is. I wouldn't. I think financially for the club currently, that's not feasible.
This might be your this might be your hottest take, as far as this might finally bring the haters out. Come on out, guys. Let's hear it.
And it has nothing to do with Aboubakar's qualities. I think that is just too big of a chunk to spend on one player, given our particular. I'm not saying that he's not worth 20 million. I'm saying we can't afford it.
To spend 20 million right now.
I mean, even if you sell Domagoj Vida, I don't think that spending all that money on one place is a wise decision. And then I would much rather spend 3.5 million or whatever on trying to get a Mario Gomez or something.
And
I don't know what his price would be.
Additionally, by getting a guy like Gomez with his age and everything, it gives more leeway to a Kyle Larin playing here and there, spelling the older striker, right? That's much less likely in the event of Aboubakar coming, I would think.
Yeah, maybe. I think I could see Larin and Aboubakar being compatible, like how Cenk and Aboubakar were compatible.
Don't even say it. I just had my shiver up my spine. Yeah, that would actually be fantastic if they had that rapport.
But I don't know. I really hope that once Alvaro Negredo, and I hope this, with all due respect to Negredo, no hard feelings towards him, but I really hope that his departure comes quickly, so that we can move on and that we can get that new striker, and that it doesn't have to take another 3 weeks until the final days of the transfer window. And on that note, I did hear a rumor that Wagner Love might have agreed terms with Bursaspor, but no confirmation on that. But that's a possibility as well. So it's perfectly possible that in the next 14 days, I'm gonna stick 14 days on it, because with the way that we do business, I'm just gonna put a long enough term on it. But in the next 14 days, it's perfectly possible that both Negredo and Love are gone, and it's also perfectly possible that they're still here. So,
well, and on the topic of Bursaspor, gracefully shifting into that direction, let's talk about
giving me a shiver.
Yeah. Let's talk about keepers here, because perhaps that could even somehow be linked to Harun Tekin. And I don't even being able to get rid of Love in that manner and maybe even make money off him still doesn't make me swallow this very gracefully. Harun Tekin is probably the hottest rumor right now. Is that fair to say, as far as a goalkeeper goes?
Yeah, it's the one we're hearing most about, for sure.
You can hear the like. I'm doing like the Charlie Brown,
the content,
bad afternoon vibes on that one. Yeah, Harun Tekin. It sounds like we're coming in for. There's talk of, was it? I saw 3.5 million, 5 million.
Supposedly their asking price is 5 million, but Beşiktaş aren't willing to pay that. I think that the trouble there is that Beşiktaş are kind of looking at a player swap or even a loan, which Bursaspor's president Ali I has already come out and said, look, we're not willing to consider a loan or a swap. And today, Samet Aybaba, who's currently Bursaspor's coach, of course, also a former Beşiktaş player for many, many years, a Beşiktaş legend, definitely, and also a former Beşiktaş coach. He came out today, was kind of frustrated at the situation on TRT Sports program. What's it called? I think Transfer Rapport, so transfer report program. Earlier today, he had some things to say about this, so I'm just going to read them here. We'd prefer to keep Harun Tekin to remain. We prefer to keep him in our squad. Of course, if the conditions are favorable, we are willing to consider selling him. That's basically what he started off with. That's football, as he said. But then he goes on and he says that Beşiktaş should come with an offer. It's been taking way too long. If Beşiktaş makes an official offer, we'll evaluate it.
So basically, you're saying Bursaspor is in the same camp as like 75% of our fans right now.
Yes. So basically, he's saying if Beşiktaş are coming with an official offer, we can evaluate it and consider it. Because right now, the player's thinking, the president is still thinking. That's all his words, by the way. Our other goalkeepers are thinking the situation isn't appropriate. Either it'll happen or stop wasting our time, basically, is what he's saying. And I sympathize.
I get it.
I think that the thing is with Beşiktaş right now, they don't want to spend a lot on a goalkeeper.
Which makes sense.
That's clear.
Well, well, maybe not, right? It depends, right? It would make sense given the quality of guys we're talking about, and like the deal that, to me, like I was reading that we were maybe going to get Ospina for like 1.5 million. Like that to me is like, okay, if we're going to get a guy at this stage of their career, that's like that's great. I'll pay that for a guy like that,
No, but that's peanuts. 1.5 million is peanuts, and that's probably a loan fee or something. You're not going to get him for 1.5 million outright.
So. And that's then maybe then what? We'd pay like maybe another 3.5 next season or something. Like again, I'm willing to do that. I am. If it's something like that for someone with Ospina's quality, knowing we'll have him for the next like 2 or 3 years, probably given his age.
Yeah, we probably thought we would have Fabry for 5, but that didn't work out.
That's a shame. But like for Harun Tekin, no way. I would never. I don't even think I'd be willing to pay 3.5 for Harun Tekin, honestly, just because we're talking about Bursaspor.
I'd be PISSED if we paid that type of money for him. It's not even like this guy he's young. He's not young. He's 29 years old. He's only like a year younger than Fabry was. No. Plus these guys are like, 5 million. Oh, we just got 6 million for the best goalkeeper in the last 2 seasons in the Turkish Super League. You want 5 million for this guy that, every match against Fenerbahce fumbles the ball 20 times. Yeah, no thanks.
I'm with you on this. I definitely don't want to see Harun Tekin playing for Beşiktaş.
The only way I could accept Harun Tekin, like the only way that wouldn't like totally ruin this transfer window for me is if we get Shinji Kagawa and like Nasser Chadli and I mean, it don't Shinji Kagawa is enough.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, if nobody leaves on the wings, we don't need Chadli
on
top of that. You know, I mean, if we would get like Kagawa and then get like a good striker, okay, you know, I'll take it then if you don't overpay. But anything above 2 million for that guy is way too much. I think 2 million is you know, I think paying 2 million for Harun Tekin, that's just throwing 2 million away from the 6 you got for Fabry. I don't think it's justifiable.
You know, the carrot that we're putting before everyone is Shinji Kagawa and Nasser Chadli, because that's probably what people are here for. But let's stick on the keeper thing.
Yeah, should we? I'm getting depressed.
But there's one more on the docket here, and actually I wanted to bring it up with you in particular. There's the talk of Mignolet. He's Belgian. You're Belgian. You know, what is the sense you have on him?
I always rated him. This is not going to be a popular opinion because I know that we have some people listening that are probably Liverpool fans or stuff like that. They live in the UK. And I know he's been dragged to the mud so much in the last couple of years since he's been playing for Liverpool. But he was a great goalkeeper in Centrale. He was a great goalkeeper for Sunderland. And you know what? This has been something that's been said often. Had he been born, say 10 years earlier or 10 years later, basically just had he been born in a different generation, he'd always be the number one for Belgium. He's just very unlucky that he was born in the same decade as Thibaut Courtois. Well, actually, he wasn't born in the same decade, I think, because I think he's from the 80s and Courtois is from the 90s.
Courtois came up so young.
That's kind of
so good, so young.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mean, he's been unlucky for Belgium. If there wasn't a Courtois, Mignolet would have like 90 caps right now or something like that.
Could we call him your favorite? Would he be your top choice as for a keeper?
From the rumored names right now, from the three big rumors, which are Harun Tekin, David Ospina, and Simon Mignolet, I would prefer going with Mignolet just because, one, he's got height on Ospina. He's a good shot stopper. He's a great penalty stopper. I think they are either the same age or Ospina is like a little bit younger. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I mean, Mignolet is 30 already. I think Ospina is still 29, I want to say, for a couple more weeks or months. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I mean, all three of these guys are roughly around the same age. They're like either 1 year apart or the same age. And for me, you know, either it's got to be Mignolet or Ospina if you pick one of these three. For me, Harun Tekin is simply, you know what? I mean, if we end up getting it, obviously I'd support him, and I wouldn't want him to fail just because I bashed him on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to be proven right. No, I much rather have Beşiktaş do well and
win. And
you know, exactly. I don't want them. I don't want any more of this Tolga and Hakan Arikan and Cenk Günen BS. I just want a secure goalkeeper. And this is one of the interesting quotes from yesterday from the pre Tórshavn press conference, something that Sinan Güneş said that rung so true with me. Yeah, he basically said that the difference between Tolga and Fabry is both of them made mistakes, but when Tolga made a mistake, he let his head hang and he let it affect him. Fabry, when he made a mistake, next match he would just be top again. It didn't even bother him. Like he knows how to pick himself up, and that's so important as a goalkeeper because when we talk about goal scoring being a mental game, goalkeeping is even more so. Arguably, being a striker and being a goalkeeper are the two heaviest mental positions in football. And Tolga mentally, I'm not even going to talk about his abilities. I mean, it's not like Tolga is a bad goalkeeper. Yeah, he's not good with his feet, but I mean, on his line, stuff like that, he's a pretty good goalkeeper. That's probably controversial what I'm saying now, but he's not a bad goalkeeper in most aspects, except for his footwork and all that stuff. But like shot stopping, handling, you know, reflexes, he's not a bad keeper. But his issue, right, is mentally that he is not able to pick himself up again, and he's just not that good under that type of pressure. We saw that in those games where he messed up.
Yeah, in Europe especially, right? When the pressure really is on, that's when he kind of buckles.
Those weren't mistakes because he wasn't paying attention. Because on that goal against Brugge, and especially on a goal against Sporting, because Sporting, you can just see it on him that he's, oh my God, Brugge flashback.
Yeah,
that's just complete, and you just know that it's fear, not so much as incompetence.
Absolutely. It's like a deer in headlights. It's like he gets that like,
and that's a huge problem for a goalkeeper for me.
Yeah, big time.
And maybe some Liverpool fans will say, well, that's exactly what I think about Mignolet, but I think Mignolet is a different caliber. Yeah. And I do believe that he could do well for us. Right. And same thing goes for Ospina. And with Harun Tekin, to me, he's one of those typical Turkish goalkeepers like a Cenk Gönen, somebody who can look really, really impressive, but he just has those amazing brain farts. And I just don't want that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can agree. It's such a vital piece of the team. We're looking for a backbone. But let's keep it moving, because I think the part that'll cheer us up is upon us. The good news.
Supposed good news,
Supposed, right. First of all, and I'm actually we're gonna damper some of the good news. But so first of all, there's Nasser Chadli. Now, Chadli, we were just talking about our dearth of wingers since now Gökhan Töre and Lens are in good form. What do you think about Nasser Chadli? Is that a realistic transfer for us? Is that a need for us? What do you think?
Well, Chadli's preferred position, and the position where throughout his career he has always done best at, is that of a left winger. So the question is, are you bringing him in as a left winger, or are you bringing him in as a number 10? According to Fred Gunayer, who claims to have spoken to people within the club, that he says that there's an agreement with Chadli, a personal agreement, and that the clubs are still negotiating. But he also said that the people in the club told him that he's being considered as a winger first. And if a winger leaves, he will be brought in immediately. But I think he kind of insinuated that he's initially being considered as a winger, but he's also kind of being considered as a 10 in case other options maybe don't work out or something.
What are your thoughts? Now, you know him best, I suppose.
I think he could do well as a 10. I know that I think Adriaanse tried that with him when he was still at Twente, and he at the time had just come back from an injury, and he wasn't 100% happy about having to play there. But this is what I'm talking about. It's like years ago. It's like 6 years ago or something, or longer. He has definitely developed as a footballer, has become more versatile. I mean, for Belgium, he has played left back, he has played right back, he's played left mid, right mid, central mid.
In the World Cup, he was most impressive. I mean, granted, this was tactical because of Roberto Martinez, but he played often as a left back, correct?
Well, I think
like a wing back.
Against Brazil, he played He played kind of as a I think he played on the midfield there, but he was kind of like doing what Carrasco was doing and what Meunier were doing. So he basically took Carrasco's place in the team and became the wing back. Then against France, he was forcefully put in Meunier's position, which was on the right wing back position, which wasn't really his best match, because against Brazil he played left wing back, which he did really well against Brazil.
Yeah.
But then because of Meunier's suspension, he had to play right wing back against France, and that really wasn't ideal for him. You could see that. But I mean, he's being played out of position. Like, he's definitely a lot more comfortable on the left wing than he is on the right wing, but he can do it. But of course, you're playing against France. You're not playing against Akhisar Belediyespor.
Absolutely.
With all
that's
respect.
Interesting. I mean, so he could even. What if he was like our right back option?
He could. Now, as a 10, I could see him work perfectly as well. Like we spoke about the Sosa role before when we were talking about Shinji Kagawa. I could see Nayir Chadli do that as well, because Nayir Chadli is a hard worker.
Fast.
He has the technical ability. He's good on the ball. He's good in despite the fact that he's quite tall. He's like 187. He's really good at getting the short combination football going on and stuff like that. He's just a good footballer. So I could definitely see that work as well. In that Sosa role, because you have to keep in mind at Atletico Madrid, Sosa was being used as a right midfielder by Diego Simeone. So it's not, and you saw that also in the 2015-2016 season when we won our first title under Shinol Gunesh. You also saw with Sosa that he often drifted to the wings, and I could see the exact same thing happen with Chadli. Starting off as a 10 but drifting wide, making room for Tórshavn to come upon the field, and in addition with that, giving his extra work rate that you didn't have with Talisca. I think a guy like Tórshavn again would be allowed to flourish and shine more. Just like I think how he would be allowed to do that with Shinji Kagawa, who for me is the ideal target.
Well, so let's do it. Yeah, let's segue there. And I think that's clearly most special. Based on social media, and what's happening out there, it sure looks as if Shinji Kagawa would be the fan favorite. There's a huge come to Beşiktaş campaign. We started putting it out in Japanese even. Now, I'm going to read some stuff that we've procured as well. But before we do that, what are your thoughts on Kagawa? Before, we know more than... Should we just read that first?
Yeah, just read it.
All right, let's read it. So, Kaan, via his contacts, secret contacts, if we tell you who they are, we'll have to kill you. So, Etsuko Motokawa is a reporter for SoccerKing.jp, or maybe /JP-JP. A Japanese, I think a fairly prominent Japanese reporter. But Kaan...
Yeah, I don't know her, but apparently she's one of the top journalists connected to the Japanese national team. So.
Right, and so through Kaan's friend Dan Orlowitz, we gained some info regarding Shinji Kagawa and his outlook regarding possibly leaving Dortmund. Now, previously last week, he sort of expressed an openness to a new adventure of some kind. But so now, in an interview he gave to Etsuko Motokawa, some of his comments, quote, "If it's a new manager that's very significant for me," he's talking about Dortmund, "it's a chance for me to be stimulated with new experiences, and I don't want to miss out. At my age, I feel a sense of responsibility, so I need to step up my awareness to the next level." Later, he said, "I need to take a look at myself and try to fit into the squad. With my playing style, I'm an attacker, so it's a question of my ability to keep taking risks. I have to go back to becoming that risk taker." Continuing, you see it in Hazard when he sets off with the ball on the attack. "If I don't keep trying to play like that, I won't improve. Japanese players tend to prefer balance in those situations, playing more conservatively for the team. So it's a question of believing in your own strength and taking that risk. I have to try harder. That's what I felt playing against Belgium," he's talking about, for the Japanese national side. "It's the same with Neymar, that mentality that gives you the strength to finish the play." And to close, Motoko Etsukawa wrote that, quote, "Famous Turkish clubs such as Galatasaray and Beşiktaş are reportedly interested in Kagawa, but he paints a picture of wanting to succeed at Dortmund. He wants to bring back the strong Dortmund that propelled his international career 8 years ago." Now, that in itself would sort of rain on our parade, but Kaan, you have some comments regarding maybe the nature of the article that was written and how, maybe it's not necessarily the most accurate take right now.
Well, if you read this article and if you take those quotes into account, this is something that was pointed out to me, by the way. This is not my own personal take. I'm not that brilliant, but it can be interpreted in multiple ways. This could also perfectly apply for him going to a new club, and him pushing himself to be all he can be. It's perfectly possible that she had a deadline and she was, you kind of have to paint a picture, kind of have to paint a story.
Right.
And maybe she just decided to go, okay, I'm going with the Dortmund narrative because these rumors from Turkey aren't concrete enough yet. Yeah. We don't have enough information on it yet. So, take this. This isn't a definitive, I'm staying at Dortmund or anything like that.
And I think every smart player tends to hedge their bet in this way, where they always speak positively of their club, that they aren't assured of leaving, just in case they don't, right? You don't want to, pee in the pool, so to speak, and make it, so that it's untenable for you to return, or so that the fans won't like you if you do. You're getting booed on the pitch because you express a desire to leave or anything like that. Exactly. So I think it's professional to kind of cover your bases, if you will. Right?
Yeah, but the general feeling from Germany seems to be that he is not really in their future plans and that they are open for an exit for him. Also, in an interview he gave last week while he was in Osaka, I believe, he did say that he's open for a new challenge and he's actually he wants a new challenge. We did put that up on the side. I'll get these quotes up on the side as well tomorrow, probably, or something from Soccer King. But last week, there was also an interview with Kagawa in which he basically said, "I want a new challenge." So we did get. I don't know if you wanted to mention it as well, but Firat Gunayer also yesterday did confirm that according to people he spoke to within the club, that they are currently in talks with Dortmund regarding Shinji Kagawa. So
that gives more to the positive side of things.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's hope that what he's saying is true and that we are indeed after him. And I don't know. Once this Negredo thing hopefully goes through, I hope that opens up the floodgates. I hope it opens the floodgates for whatever's going to happen, because we just entered August. They have to realize that the league is starting next weekend. Yes. We have two important qualifiers coming up. They shouldn't wait until the last week of August to conduct all these transfers. Time is starting to run out.
Agreed. Yeah, fully agreed. I think, it's tough. We're going to be introducing, for example, I would assume in our first match against Linz on this coming Thursday, we'll likely be introducing Enzo Roco to the squad. It's good that we have a match like that. Maybe not, because of the pressure on. Maybe he's not in form yet. Chenogunesh is hesitant typically to introduce new guys in the squad. But so anyway, what I mean is, over these coming weeks, we're going to be introducing theoretically, 3-4 new guys into the squad. It'd be nice if it could be spaced out, but that would require having the guys now in order to space those things out. So yeah, I get hitting the panic button, and you didn't even mention this, but I think the real kicker here, and what we should really be waiting for, as far as for things to start rolling, would be Domagoj Vida. There's not much news on that front. I think the latest is that Olympique Lyon is in for him. There's another squad. Yeah, Lyon has an interest.
Can't see Lyon paying what we want for him, to be honest.
Me neither. Who's the other? There's another side that was rumored.
Paris Saint-Germain were rumored.
Oh, Leicester, I
Monaco, think. Leicester City, Liverpool, at this point West Ham. Everton. But West Ham supposedly spent their budget already, so that might be difficult. Although I do think they sold someone yesterday or today. So there's lots of clubs being rumored with him right now, but
Max Meyer, by the way, breaking. Max Meyer just signed with Crystal Palace. I don't know if we're definitely not getting him.
So basically, we're currently the 2nd of August. There's 7 more days in the English transfer window, and realistically speaking, that big money move for Domagoj Vida is going to come from the Premier League. Mm-hmm. So if he's leaving for big money, I'm turning into an if, because I think if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have been, yeah, definitely, or even last week. But, you never know. maybe they're kind of playing chicken here with, oh yeah, time is running out, guys. You better come up with that 25 million or whatever they're asking for.
Right.
But they have to also kind of keep in mind if they don't sell Vida for 20 plus, that's going to make things more difficult for them. And supposedly they've already had an offer on the table for 20 million.
22, I heard even.
Yeah, so if that's not going to be getting increased, really, maybe it's time to start thinking about accepting that.
Yeah,
you know,
I actually tweeted with the news of 22 million. I tweeted exactly that like
this. Okay,
maybe we wait, but like, gosh, 22 could do a lot for us right now.
It can work out two ways, really. You know, it can be, these English clubs are going to feel the pressure. They still want that central defender, and they're going to end up overpaying. Like, they're going to end up, that one you can bleep.
Right.
Okay, you know, okay, just here, take 30 million and give us the defender, you know, whatever. That can happen. It's possible. It's also perfectly possible that they're like, you know what? We'll just wait until January. That's also perfectly possible.
Right. I mean, to inform that view, Fikret Orman did just give in his last press conference. The latest was that there has been no official offer for Domagoj Vida, and Pepe has no interest in leaving. So I felt like it was an insinuation that we could still see them in the back. But I also feel like, again, you know, he's probably covering his butt a little to the extent that he's like, you know, he doesn't want to put everything out there. Or to his benefit, I think he did surprise us with Enzo Roco. So things, you know, like they kind of have shown a desire to operate sort of under the table in the back channels, like maybe not putting all the cards on the table, so to speak. So I think, you know, maybe there is some action about Vida, and he's just keeping his cards close to his chest. But on the other hand,
I mean, given the World Cup that he had, there's no chance in hell that there's no concrete interest in him.
Agreed, yeah.
Plus, you know, Orman is such a troll when it comes to the media. I mean, he also said that we completely trust Tolga. He even said Tolga, in my eyes, Tolga is a better goalkeeper than Fabri. Yeah, I mean, if he was, then why did you get Fabri? Huh?
Exactly, yeah.
So, and he does this all the time. He comes out and says stuff, and you know, it's. I just think sometimes he's I don't know who he's trolling, but he's just doing it on purpose. I don't know why he does it, but whatever. I don't think it's what he says in the media like that in that fashion. I don't take it too seriously. But we do have to, you know, like I said, time's running out. Clock is ticking. We have to start getting rid of Negredo. We have to sell off Vida if we want to do any big moves. And when it comes to Vida, hopefully we'll know in the next 7 days, because then the English transfer window closes.
Yeah.
And I think it's unlikely that a team from another league will pay 25 plus.
Well, before we go, there is one little bit of news that I wanted to run by you. Have you heard about the news of Isimat Mirin? I don't know. He's a PSV Eindhoven central defender who apparently has himself claimed to have been in contact with Beşiktaş, and that's even his preferred. What are your thoughts on that?
He said something along the lines of, I've been in talks with Beşiktaş, and there's still a couple of details that need to be settled, but they are the profile of a club that I'm looking for, and you know, we'll just have to wait and see. That's basically what he said. You know, honestly, it's like I said earlier with the central defender. It's very important that you pay attention to them very closely, and I cannot with a straight face say I have paid attention to him. I have watched PSV in the past couple of years. I watched PSV games. One of my best friends is a PSV fan. Even last season we went to a match together in Eindhoven in the stadium. So it's not like I don't watch PSV, but I couldn't honestly tell you whether he's good or not.
He's a regular player though, right?
Yeah, I think he played like 30 plus games this past season in a 34 game.
And he's like
season.
28?
26, I think.
26? Okay, so like the
I think
age.
26 or 27.
And
so.
if Beşiktaş matches the profile of club he's looking for, I would say likewise he matches the profile of the kind of player we'd be wanting to get as well. I think you're right, 26, because he was the same age as Enzo Roco. But conversely, he, that'd be creating a bit of a logjam between he and Enzo Roco. So.
Yeah, I think that just kind of depends on what else is going to happen. Are we gonna sell anyone else? I mean, there have been those Pepe rumors. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think we'd. I think it's more likely that we extend our contract with Pepe rather than sell him right now. That's just my personal gut feeling. That's not like any info or anything. It's just how I look at it. I don't think they want to sell Pepe. Of course, if there's like an offer they can't refuse, they definitely take it. We've seen that. That's just the MO of the club. But I don't think that for I think 7 million. That's not that much, even though Pepe is 35 years old. But just given what he offers, what he brings, the experience he brings, all of that.
Well, and I forget the name. I think it was Ahmet Çelebi or something. We have a very young central defender who has
Alpay
Çelebi, and he's already referenced him as a kind of like, I think maybe it was not so serious. It was like a kind of father figure or something like that. But clearly he's playing the role as a leader and kind of putting guys under his wing and stuff. So that's
yeah, having someone like Pepe to train with as a young player. And just to learn from, I think that, if we look at Cenk Tosun, he learned immensely from both Dembaba and Mario Gomez. Just being those two guys as understudy made him a better player. Sure. And that's definitely true for a defender as well. If you can, as a young player, play along the likes of someone like Pepe, who was one of the best defenders in the world to this day, that's not an exaggeration.
It's really
because
not.
He plays for my club. He still is among the top echelon of defenders in the world.
I mean, whatever you think of him or the club he played for, or whatever. I mean, the fact is, it's one of the top clubs, and he played there as a starting main contributor for decades. So, that's it. Period. End of discussion. You're absolutely right.
And he's shown that he's still got what it takes. I mean, he was Portugal's most important player at the 2016 Euros. He was one of our most important players in this past Champions League campaign.
For sure.
I don't think that he has lost a step. The reason he lost his place in Madrid, because he was aging, and Madrid, like you see, Ronaldo's 33 years old. Is Ronaldo not world class anymore?
Right.
Of course he still is, but they sold him because they got a good deal for him, and Pepe at the time when he was kind of getting on a sidetrack at Real 2 years ago. Well, he had some injury issues, and Varane and Ramos were doing well together at the back. So he kind of lost his place there because those two were doing it. And we're talking Varane, who's a real upcoming top player, sure, world class defender in his own right. So, I get that a club like Real Madrid has the luxury to say, okay, you know what, Pepe, you're 34, 35 years old. They offered him a contract extension.
Yeah.
Let that be clear. They wanted to keep him, but they made it clear that it would be as a third defender, and Pepe wasn't up for that. Pepe wanted to play regular football.
Feature prominently.
With the World Cup ahead, so he chose to come to Beşiktaş, and that's also why he turned down Paris Saint-Germain, by the way.
Well,
because they also wanted him as a third defender behind Thiago Silva and Marquinhos, I believe. That's why he came to Beşiktaş. It's not because he didn't have options, and he's still world class. And playing with a player like that for these youngsters, that's great.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, the immeasurables, like you can't even put a price tag on some of the things he's bringing in terms of giving us solidity in the back, peace of mind, leadership, helping our young guys come up. We have quite a few young defenders in the way of Fatih Aksoy and, the guy I was just mentioning, Alpay Çelebi, So there are so many factors involved in having a guy like that at the club that you can't even really, you don't think about just when you just think about him as a player on the pitch. That, I'd like to keep him around, and I don't think it's that realistic. We wouldn't, given the solid year he had and the fact that it's only been a year.
Yeah, I think it just all kind of depends on what Pepe wants to do next season. Yeah. Maybe he has an offer from the Premier League, and for example, Wolverhampton have have a really big Portuguese presence, and Jorge Mendes has a big hand in that club right now, and I believe that's Pepe's agent, so it could of course happen that he decides to go to Wolverhampton this coming summer on a free, perfectly possible. He could go and cash in China. It's also perfectly possible. And it's also perfectly possible that he says, Beşiktaş win the league possibly and go to the Champions League. And he says, you know what, I'm going to stick around for 1 or 2 more years and I'm going to play some more Champions League with these guys. Yeah. It's also perfectly possible. And I don't agree with people that say, he's 35 years old, we should sell him because he's old. No, I mean, there's some things you can't really put a price on, and Pepe's experience is definitely one of those things. I mean, you can put a price on it, but it's definitely higher than 7 million in my opinion.
No, you can put a price on it, but exactly, it's got to be a high one. And anyway, it's not like, given what we have to do already in terms of replacing guys who have left and bringing in talent, it's just we have enough to focus on. I'd rather just us focus on that. As it is, things aren't trickling at the pace we'd like, trickling in. So,
Yeah, at this point, bring in some players before you sell any more starters.
We're already in a near panic, and this is from us, like, who I'd like to consider the more reasonable wing of the fan base. So everyone breathe. Yeah. Everyone breathe. Like, we're coming to the end of this. The stress of this season is winding down.
It's probably the most. This is probably the worst transfer window I can remember in terms of having to be, my patience being tested. I think this is probably the worst one I've gone through, and I've gone through
bad ones.
I don't know, almost 20 summer ones and 20 January ones. So I've been watching a lot of Beşiktaş for almost 2 decades.
Yeah,
so
they're really testing our patience here.
They're definitely testing our patience here for sure. That's Yeah, I can't remember a transfer period that was. Because in the Feta season, you knew that there wasn't going to be much movement and that it was going to be difficult to do anything. So you kind of accepted that. This season, you do see players going out on good fees, and that the club are still in a position due to not playing Champions League football this upcoming season. But at the other end that they have a certain level they want to sustain, and there's players that need to be replaced. Talisca needs to be replaced. There's no way around that.
It's more important than ever that we get back into the Champions League. So, come on, Fikret, let's get it together. But on that note, I think it's probably a good time to wrap it up. Now, I'm going to hand it over to you, Kaan, to do the honors, because I think it'd be nice, if you could include the Twitter profiles of our guests today, our snippets from earlier. Send us out.
Okay, so for our first fragment from Tom Marshall, you can just follow at Mexico World Cup. That's his current Twitter handle. I do believe that's probably changed due to the World Cup, and he might change that back.
Right,
but currently it's still that. Right? So it's at Mexico World Cup.
One word
right now. That's one word. There's no spaces in between there or anything like that. And then our friend Nadim, you can find him at Kanka Group. So Kanka Group. Also just one word. And his screen name will be Ankaragucu-Iskocya. Yeah. So you can follow both of those gentlemen.
And he's a good follow in general. He's got a good sense of humor. He's a
good guy.
He's a well-known member of Turkish football Twitter, I'd say, at least on the English side of things.
I've known him for many years, and he's really one of the best guys I've met. Like, never had words with him or anything like that. Has a good football, and he's he actually, what's one of the things that I always hate is when you're arguing with people didn't watch those games, and like I know a couple of people like that. They talk a lot of smack.
Yeah, I have a few comments for the guys on our editorial board. Actually, I heard some of them were commenting clearly not having watched the game, and they're some of the ones who talk a lot of trash. So interesting.
So and that's the thing with Nadim. He's always watches his own team, so he has his opinion. I mean, Nadim isn't a journalist or anything, or like an analyst or anything like that. But he's a smart football fan. Who, in my opinion, I've met journalists that are complete dumbasses. And I've met football fans because sometimes maybe I'll it's a fan's opinion and but I'm a fan.
We're all fans.
And my opinions are fans' opinion. I don't consider my opinion to be the be all end all, but a guy like Nadim, I've known him for a long time, and I do definitely value his opinion a lot. And then for Umut Nayir, this is a player that I think we've been talking about for 2 years together because he started off at Ankaragucu, and we spoke about him when he was at Göztepe, and then I remember him being so happy when they managed to loan him last season, and I also know how disappointed he was that they didn't manage to keep him now. So yeah, well, he's got a good view on it. I don't think that he has the same expectations as I do, because I kind of have. I'm quite hopeful. I think for him it's more like probably not the best move he could have made. But I respect that.
Who's honest? Thanks for coming in, guys. That was really wonderful to have. It's always wonderful to have some outside input on these things.
Yeah, especially with these new players coming in, when it's not like a massive high-profile move. I think having someone who's watched a player or an expert on the league or whatever, having them record a small couple of minutes of info and analysis on the player, it's probably more prudent than having a 20 or 30 or 40-minute interview just talking about one player. I think we could definitely do that if we got like a really big signing like a Shinji Kagawa.
Sure,
or and imagine if he ends up at Galatasaray.
Don't even put that into. I'm knocking on wood right now. Here, it's on film. It's recorded.
Double knock. But imagine it's perfectly possible.
Yeah. The Japanese reporter mentioned that they had an interest. Yikes. Well, send us out, man. Send us out.
Okay, well, you can follow us, of course, at Beşiktaş_int on Twitter. You can follow the podcast at Eagles_podcast. You can follow my co-host, Sinan Schwarting, at Sir_Right_a lot. You can follow me at Rosarian_Z.
It's back.
And that's pretty much it, people. Please give us a follow on our podcast Twitter account. We want to grow that, of course. Drop us a 5-star review on Google Play or on iTunes. It always helps, something like that. And spread the word. Your goldfish, your mom, your dad, your best friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your whatever else there is, kind of friend. Spread the word, help us out.
Your friend with benefits.
And keep and keep listening for sure. And one more thing, give us feedback. It's always useful. Whether it's positive or negative, stuff we can improve, stuff you like, stuff you don't like. Do we talk too much? Do we not talk enough? Would you like more than one episode a week? Is one episode enough?
Is Kaan crazy for not wanting to spend 20 million euro on Aboubakar?
Yeah.
Let us know, haters. Bring the haters out.
That's a good question.
The haters ball.
We'll have to make a we'll have to make a poll on that one, and then we'll answer it next week in the next episode.
Well, my input is I always like to end on this note. Go Beşiktaş! See you everyone. Bye.